The grand narrative of human history is a familiar one. A slow, arduous climb from the stone axe to the silicon chip. It's a story of linear progress, of humanity gradually awakening to the secrets of science and engineering, step by painstaking step. This is the timeline etched into the bedrock of our understanding, a story that is comfortable, logical, and accepted. Yet, in the quiet corners of the world, hidden in dusty museum vaults or submerged beneath the waves, lie whispers of another story. They take the form of artifacts that simply should not exist, objects of impossible complexity, tools of inexplicable precision, and devices that demonstrate a knowledge of science and the cosmos that seems wildly out of place. These are the glitches in the timeline, the uncomfortable questions that history struggles to answer. Mainstream thought often dismisses them as ritualistic objects, misinterpretations, or simply anomalies. But what if they are not anomalies at all? What if they are pieces of a much larger puzzle, evidence of a past far more advanced than we have ever been led to believe? This is a journey into the world of forbidden archaeology, an exploration of the tools and technologies that defy their time. We will investigate the artifacts that suggest our ancestors were not primitive, but were the inheritors, or perhaps the survivors, of a lost technological dawn. To begin this journey, we must first look past the comfortable narrative and dare to ask the profound question: what if our history books have only told us half the story? The first piece of evidence awaits, not in a dusty tomb, but in the silent, watery depths of the Mediterranean.
In the year 1901, a team of Greek sponge divers, sheltering from a violent storm off the coast of the remote island of Antikythera, made a discovery that would forever alter our perception of the ancient world. Deep beneath the waves, nearly 150 feet down in the crushing dark, lay the ghostly silhouette of a Roman-era shipwreck. For months, they retrieved the treasures scattered across the seafloor: marble statues, fine pottery and jewelry, and among the treasures, a formless, corroded lump of calcified bronze, no larger than a modern laptop. For decades, it sat in the National Archaeological Museum in Athens, largely ignored, an unremarkable piece of wreckage, perhaps a fragment of a statue or a piece of the ship itself. The mainstream view, when any was offered at all, was that it was likely a simple navigational tool, maybe a type of astrolabe. The very notion that it could be something more was dismissed by the academic consensus. The historical narrative was clear. The kind of intricate, geared machinery needed for complex calculations simply did not exist in the 1st century BCE. That level of mechanical engineering belonged to the great European clockmakers of the 14th century, more than 1,000 years in the future. To suggest otherwise was to venture into the realm of fantasy. The artifact was an inconvenient puzzle, best left unsolved. But the truth has a way of waiting to be found. The breakthrough came not with a chisel or a brush, but with the invisible gaze of 21st century technology. Using high-resolution X-ray tomography and advanced digital imaging, scientists were finally able to peer inside the corroded mass, revealing the ghost of a machine hidden within. And what they saw was breathtaking. It was not a simple tool. It was a symphony of at least 30 interlocking bronze gears, arranged with a miniaturized precision that was, by all accounts, impossible. This was not a mere astrolabe. It was a sophisticated mechanical computer. The dials on its face tracked the intricate dance of the cosmos. One gear, turning once every 19 years, perfectly modeled the metonic cycle of the moon. Another, with a subtle pin and slot mechanism, accounted for the moon's variable speed, a complex astronomical theory that wouldn't be described by Johannes Kepler for another 1,500 years. The device could accurately predict solar and lunar eclipses down to the very hour. It tracked the calendar, the positions of the sun and moon against the zodiac, and even the 4-year cycle of the ancient Olympic Games. It was, in essence, a portable clockwork universe, a mechanical codex of astronomical knowledge that surpassed anything known to exist for the next millennium.
So, how do we explain this impossible object? The existence of the Antikythera Mechanism doesn't just challenge the timeline of technology, it shatters it. It suggests that our understanding of the ancient Greeks is profoundly incomplete. This was likely not a singular, miraculous invention. Instead, it is almost certainly the last surviving example of a long tradition of sophisticated mechanical engineering, a tradition that has been almost entirely wiped from the historical record. Perhaps the legendary works of Archimedes were not just theories, but physical, working machines of similar complexity. Perhaps workshops across the Hellenistic world were producing these cosmic calculators, a lineage of knowledge lost to the fires of war, the burning of libraries, and the simple decay of time. The mechanism is a tangible echo from a forgotten age of genius. It proves that at least one ancient civilization possessed a level of technological prowess that we are only just beginning to comprehend. It forces us to wonder, if they could build a mechanical computer 2,000 years ago, what else could they build? What other marvels of science and engineering have been lost to the silence of the centuries? The Greeks, it seems, could map the heavens with clockwork precision. But in the sun-baked lands of Egypt, another civilization was allegedly pursuing an even more elusive power, the power to conquer the darkness itself.
Deep beneath the magnificent temple of Hathor at Dendera, a place of profound ancient worship, lies a series of cramped subterranean crypts. To access them, one must descend through a narrow passage into the suffocating darkness, far from the light of the Egyptian sun. It is here, carved into the stone walls of these hidden chambers, that we find a set of reliefs so strange, so out of place that they have fueled a fierce debate for decades. The carvings depict figures holding what appear to be massive, transparent bulbs. Inside each bulb, a long, wavy snake uncoils from a lotus flower at the base, and a thick cable runs from that base to a rectangular box, an object known as a jed pillar. To the mainstream Egyptologist, the interpretation is purely symbolic, an open and shut case of religious iconography. The scene, they say, represents a creation myth. The snake is a symbol of the god Ancienttools, emerging from a lotus blossom, a classic Egyptian symbol of creation and rebirth. The jed pillar is a well-known hieroglyph representing stability and the spine of the god Osiris. It is a powerful mythological image meant to be understood metaphorically, its placements in the crypt imbuing the temple's foundations with sacred power. There is no mystery here, only the complex and beautiful language of pharaonic religion. But a profound and practical problem hangs in the air of these ancient chambers, as real as the stone itself. There is no soot. The ceilings of the Dendera crypts, like the inner chambers of the pyramids and the intricate tombs in the Valley of the Kings, are remarkably clean. Ancient Egyptians were master artists, covering these hidden spaces with vibrant, detailed paintings. To do this work, they would have needed a source of light. Yet the torches or oil lamps available to them would have choked the air with smoke and left a thick layer of black residue on every surface. So how did they see in the pitch-black depths? This is where an alternative and far more radical theory emerges. What if the Dendera reliefs are not a myth, but a schematic? What if we are looking at a blueprint for an ancient source of electric light? Proponents of this theory point to the uncanny resemblance between the carvings and early electrical discharge tubes, like the Crookes tube. In this view, the bulb is a glass envelope, the lotus flower an insulating socket, the snake a representation of the plasma filament arcing within the tube, and the cable a power cord. The entire scene transforms from a myth into a technical diagram. If this interpretation holds any truth, it fundamentally rewrites our understanding of the past. It would mean the ancient Egyptians had not only discovered electricity, but had harnessed it to create sophisticated lighting systems 2 millennia before Thomas Edison. This would not be a simple progression of technology, but a staggering leap, suggesting a body of scientific knowledge that has been utterly lost to time. It would imply that our modern electrical age is not a new dawn, but a rediscovery of a long-forgotten science. Of course, no physical proof of an ancient light bulb has ever been unearthed from the sands of Egypt. The theory remains speculative, an electrifying possibility based on visual interpretation and the enduring mystery of the soot-free tombs. The carvings remain an enigma, a silent testament on a crypt wall, but they force us to ask a critical question. If the ancient Egyptians could indeed command an unseen force to generate light, what other impossible forces could they command? Perhaps the most compelling evidence of their lost power isn't just carved on the walls, but is present in the very stones from which those walls were built, cut and shaped with a precision that defies all conventional explanation.
While the mysteries of ancient knowledge can be debated, some evidence is so tangible, so overwhelmingly physical, that it can be measured, touched, and held. It is written not on papyrus, but in the hardest stone on earth. To see it, we must travel back to Egypt, to the ancient necropolis of Saqqara. Beneath the sands lies a vast subterranean network of tunnels known as the Serapeum. Carved from the bedrock, these dark galleries hold a secret that is as massive as it is precise. Lining the tunnels are 25 colossal black boxes, each carved from a single block of Aswan granite and weighing up to 100 tons, including the lid. Their presence is breathtaking, their purpose shrouded in mystery. The accepted Egyptologist explanation is that these are sarcophagi, created to house the remains of the sacred Apis bulls, which were worshipped as incarnations of the god Ptah. According to this view, generations of ancient Egyptian craftsmen toiled with simple bronze chisels, diorite pounders, and sand abrasives to slowly and painstakingly carve these monoliths. The sheer scale of the achievement is attributed to the unwavering patience, devotion, and limitless manpower of the pharaonic state. The craftsmanship is acknowledged as masterful, but it is seen as the ultimate expression of Bronze Age technology, a testament to what human hands can do when given enough time. But when we move beyond sheer awe and begin to apply modern metrology to these boxes, the conventional explanation begins to crumble. Engineers and precision machinists who have examined the boxes report a level of accuracy that is, frankly, impossible to achieve with the accepted ancient toolkit. The interior and exterior surfaces are polished to a mirror-like finish and are flat to within a tolerance of 2/10,000th of an inch. To put that in perspective, that's a level of precision modern machine shops would struggle to replicate on such a massive piece of granite today, requiring enormous diamond-tipped cutting tools and laser measurement. The corners, both inside and out, are perfectly square. The lids, weighing 30 tons apiece, are cut with such accuracy that they form a near-perfect airtight seal with the box. Furthermore, the tool marks left behind do not speak of simple hand tools. On the floor of one box, we see strange scooped-out patterns with a regular curvature, inconsistent with the straight edge of a chisel. Inside some sarcophagi from the same era, we find evidence of perfectly round core drill holes, whose helical grooves indicate a drill feed rate hundreds of times faster than what a hand-powered abrasive drill could ever accomplish. The physical evidence etched into the granite itself seems to scream of a lost, high-speed mechanical technology. And this mystery of impossible stonework is not confined to the Nile Valley. Half a world away, high in the Bolivian Andes at an altitude of 13,000 feet, lies the desolate ruin of Pumapunku. Here, scattered across the arid plateau, are the shattered remains of andesite and diorite blocks, stones so hard they approach the level of diamond.
What was done to these stones defies easy explanation. We see the famous H blocks, intricately shaped with multiple interlocking planes and perfectly flat surfaces, looking more like they were cast from a mold than carved from stone. The mainstream attribution goes to the Tiwanaku culture, predecessors to the Inca, who again were supposed to have achieved these results with simple stone hammers and sand. But look closer. The stone is cut with grooves that are perfectly straight, some only millimeters wide, and maintain a uniform depth across their entire length. We find incredibly precise, small diameter drill holes perforating this impossibly hard material. How could a primitive culture, without a written language or the wheel, achieve a level of stone-cutting precision that would be the envy of a modern construction company? The alternative theory suggests that the tool marks tell the true story. The precision, the perfect right angles, the intricate interior cuts, and the smooth machined finish all point to the use of advanced power tools. Whether these were enormous saws, high-speed routing machines, or even some form of sonic or vibration-based technology is unknown. But the results at both the Serapeum and Pumapunku are strikingly similar. Two cultures separated by an ocean and millennia, displaying the same impossible manufacturing fingerprints. This suggests not a series of isolated coincidences, but a global legacy of forgotten high technology. The stone itself is the witness. The question then is not whether these structures could be built with simple tools, but whether the evidence we see is consistent with that method. For many, the answer is a resounding no. What unknown energy source could have powered such incredible machines? And if our ancestors possessed a technology so powerful it could shape the very bones of the earth, did they also understand the more subtle forces of nature? Perhaps the next clue lies not in a 100-ton box, but in a small, unassuming clay pot from ancient Mesopotamia.
From the monumental scale of precision-cut granite, we now turn to an object so humble it could easily be overlooked. Our journey takes us to the dusty archives of the National Museum of Iraq in the 1930s. It was there that archaeologist Wilhelm Koenig stumbled upon a collection of curious artifacts unearthed from a 2,000-year-old Parthian settlement near Baghdad. Among them was a small, 6-inch tall terracotta jar. Sealed at the top with a bitumen plug, it contained a cylinder of rolled copper, and suspended in the center of that cylinder, held in place by the seal, was a simple iron rod. It was unassuming, mysterious, and officially catalogued with no specific purpose. For years, the prevailing academic theory was that these jars were nothing more than storage vessels for sacred scrolls. In this view, a scroll of papyrus or parchment would be wrapped around the central iron rod, and the copper cylinder would serve as a protective sheath, perhaps believed to offer some preservative quality. This explanation is simple, requires no revision of the historical timeline, and places the object comfortably within the known technological limits of the Parthian Empire. It was a neat solution that effectively closed the case on these peculiar little jars. They were simply scroll holders. But an object's true purpose is not always what it seems. The crucial question, the one that reopened the entire mystery, was disarmingly simple. What happens if you treat it not as a jar, but as a device? Following Koenig's initial hypothesis, replicas of the ancient artifact were carefully constructed. Scientists filled the jar with a simple acidic liquid, an electrolyte like vinegar or grape juice, substances readily available to the ancient Parthians. The result was astonishing and undeniable. The moment the electrolyte was added, the device produced a steady, reliable electrical current of about half a volt. It wasn't a scroll jar. It was a galvanic cell. It was, in effect, a battery, created 2 millennia before Alessandro Volta was credited with its invention.
This shocking discovery opened a floodgate of new questions. If the ancient Parthians had batteries, what on earth were they powering them with? The leading theory is that they were used for a process called electroplating or gilding. By connecting several batteries in series to increase the voltage, craftsmen could have used electrolysis to apply a micro-thin layer of gold or silver onto less precious metals, creating exquisite jewelry and statuettes. Some artifacts from the region do appear to have been gilded in a way that is difficult to explain with simple mercury-based methods. Other theories suggest a medical use, perhaps a form of electroacupuncture, or for use in religious rituals, where priests could use the mysterious tingling sensation from the device to awe followers and demonstrate a connection to the divine. The Baghdad Battery is a profound technological anomaly. It suggests that knowledge of electrochemical principles is not a modern invention, but a rediscovery of a science that once flourished in the ancient world and then was completely forgotten. Like the Antikythera Mechanism, it represents a branch of scientific knowledge that appeared, seemingly out of nowhere, and then vanished without a trace. It proves that our ancestors were not just builders and farmers, but were also subtle experimenters, capable of unlocking the hidden forces of nature. The physical evidence for this lost technology, from colossal stone boxes to these simple clay jars, is compelling. It presents a world far more advanced than the one described in our history books. But what if the most incredible evidence isn't buried in the ground at all? What if it's been hiding in plain sight, written down in the pages of ancient manuscripts describing machines so advanced they could not only master the earth, but could conquer the skies themselves? Our investigation so far has been grounded in the tangible, in stone, metal, and clay. But the final category of evidence is perhaps the most profound, for it is not an object, but an idea, preserved in the ancient Sanskrit texts of the Indian subcontinent. Great epics like the Mahabharata and the Ramayana are treasure troves of Hindu philosophy and mythology. Within their verses, we read of heroic gods, powerful demons, and epic battles. And in these battles, the gods and heroes take to the skies in magnificent flying crafts known as vimanas. For centuries, the world has viewed these accounts as pure fantasy, the ancient equivalent of science fiction. The mainstream historical and literary view is that vimanas are nothing more than poetic metaphors for spiritual travel or imaginative flights of fancy, no different than the flying carpets of Arabian lore or the winged horses of the Greeks. This perspective is further solidified when considering the most famous text on the subject, the Vaimanika Shastra. Scholars have convincingly demonstrated that this specific text, which reads like a detailed technical manual, has no ancient source and was likely composed in the early 20th century. In the academic world, the case is closed. Vimanas are myth, period. But to dismiss the entire concept so easily is to ignore the sheer, startling detail found in the genuinely ancient epics. While the Vaimanika Shastra itself may be a modern creation, it could represent an attempt to reconstruct a much older and very real tradition. The descriptions of Vimanas in the Mahabharata are not vague. They speak of two-storied chariots with many windows, ejecting fiery missiles. They are described as being powered by a heavenly liquid, a potential reference to a fuel source, and capable of traveling vast distances, even into space. The Ramayana describes a vimana as being able to fly at the speed of wind and giving a melodious sound. These are not simple myths. They are peppered with what sound like functional, observational details. It is when we delve into the concepts preserved in texts like the Vaimanika Shastra that the true, mind-bending scope of this lost knowledge comes into focus. Whether ancient or not,
The text describes a complete science of aviation. It outlines the training required for pilots, warning of everything from enemy attacks to bird strikes. It details the construction of the crafts, mentioning specific types of heat-resistant lightweight metals and alloys. It describes different classes of vimanas, like the Shakuna Vimana, which is said to have intricate hinged wings, and the Tripura Vimana, a larger craft capable of traveling in the air, on land, and underwater. The most baffling sections describe the propulsion systems. The texts speak of harnessing the power of the sun through giant mirrors and crystals. More famously, they detail the use of mercury vortex engines. They describe a system where electrified mercury, heated from below, creates a powerful spinning vortex of energy that provides lift and propulsion. While this sounds like alchemy to our modern ears, is it possible that we are reading an archaic description of a forgotten physics? Are we seeing an attempt to explain an advanced plasma or ion engine using the only scientific language available to the authors? If we entertain the possibility that these texts are not fiction, but fractured history, it connects directly to the other mysteries we've explored. A civilization capable of precision machining on a global scale and harnessing electrochemical energy would surely not be earthbound. The Vimana texts could represent the missing piece of the puzzle, the theoretical knowledge that accompanied the physical hardware we find scattered across the globe. It suggests a lost worldwide civilization that had achieved a level of scientific understanding that rivaled, and in some ways perhaps even surpassed, our own. This knowledge wasn't just mechanical, it was holistic, combining physics, engineering, and a deep understanding of natural forces. The stories of sky chariots and flying gods are not unique to India. They echo in the myths and legends of nearly every ancient culture on Earth. Are these all just independent flights of human imagination, or are they a shared, deeply buried memory of a time when humanity could actually fly? We've now seen machines that mapped the cosmos, stones cut with a divine precision, jars that created an unseen power, and now texts that describe a lost age of aviation. Taken individually, they are fascinating curiosities, but taken together, what picture do they paint? What does this pantheon of impossible artifacts truly tell us about the story of humanity and the past we thought we knew?
We have journeyed from the bottom of the Aegean Sea to the sun-scorched plateaus of the Andes. We have descended into the subterranean tombs of Egypt and peered into the pages of ancient Sanskrit texts. We have seen a bronze computer that maps the heavens, monolithic stones cut with a precision that rivals our own, simple clay jars that produce an electric spark, and literary blueprints for machines that could fly. Each artifact is a ghost from a time that should not have existed, a whisper of a forgotten science. Individually, perhaps each of these mysteries could be explained away. The academic world offers plausible, if sometimes strained, explanations for each piece of the puzzle. They are ritual objects, mythological allegories, the lucky work of a singular genius, or simply anomalies. But when we step back and view these artifacts not as isolated curiosities, but as a collective body of evidence, the theory of coincidence begins to feel inadequate. A pattern emerges, a global fingerprint of advanced knowledge that appears in cultures separated by oceans and millennia. What this pattern suggests is a breathtaking possibility, a truth that could rewrite every history book on the shelf. It suggests that we are a species with amnesia, that our current technological age is not the first great dawn of human ingenuity, but perhaps the second. These artifacts are the scattered, broken remnants of a lost chapter in the human story, an epic of high science and engineering that rose, flourished, and then fell into ruin so completely that its existence has been almost entirely erased. We are left then with the ultimate mystery. It is not how did they build these things, but rather
How could such profound knowledge be forgotten? What cataclysm, what slow decay, or what deliberate act could wipe the memory of such achievements from the consciousness of humanity, leaving behind only these enigmatic clues? The past is not a dead and settled place. It is a living puzzle, and these impossible tools are an invitation to look again, to question everything we've been told, and to wonder about the true, undiscovered scope of our own history.